The massive ship of the Galactic Empire hovered above Earth, its shadow casting over the city below. Humans had only recently discovered they were not alone in the universe. Admiral Park stood tall in his crisp uniform, trying to hide his nervousness as he waited for the alien delegation to step through the airlock. "Remember, this is a historic moment," he whispered to Dr. Kim beside him. "The first official cultural exchange with the Empire." The airlock hissed open. 3 Imperial representatives emerged, tall beings with bluish scales and multiple eyes on flexible stalks. The lead alien towered over the humans, nearly twice their height. "Welcome to Earth," Admiral Park said with a slight bow. "We are honored by your presence." The Imperial ambassador made a gesture that their translators indicated was a greeting. "The Galactic Empire acknowledges Earth. We find your species interesting." Behind Dr. Kim stood her 8-year-old daughter, Jisoo. The girl's eyes were wide with wonder, not fear. She had been selected as part of the exchange program, a symbol of humanity's future. Her natural curiosity and quick mind had impressed the selection committee. "This is my daughter, Jisoo," Dr. Kim said proudly. "She will be joining the program as a representative of Earth's children." The ambassador bent down, eye stalks swiveling to examine the small human. "So fragile," he noted. "Your young stay small for so long." Jisoo smiled brightly. "I'm not that small. I'm big for my age." The ambassador made a sound that might have been laughter. "Bold too. The Empire appreciates spirit." Over the next 3 weeks, the cultural exchange proceeded smoothly. Humans shared art, music, and science. The Empire shared carefully selected knowledge about their civilization that spanned thousands of worlds. Jisoo became an unofficial mascot, charming even the most serious Imperial officials with her questions and observations. "Why do your ships use that kind of engine?" she would ask. "Why do you have 3 fingers? Can I touch your scales?" The Imperial scientists found her amusing. "Humans start learning so early," one commented. "Most species protect their young from complex concepts until maturity." Then came the day of the Peace Summit. Representatives from Earth and the Empire gathered on the orbital station. Ceremonial objects from both cultures were displayed as symbols of cooperation. Jisoo stood with her mother, wearing her best dress. The grand hall was filled with important people from both worlds. In the center stood a pedestal with an Imperial artifact, a swirling crystal that seemed to contain galaxies within it. "What's that?" Jisoo whispered. "The Star Heart," her mother replied. "It's very important to them. Remember what we talked about. Look but don't touch anything." Jisoo nodded, but her eyes never left the beautiful crystal. As speeches were given, her attention remained fixed on how the light played through the artifact. The Imperial ambassador was speaking about a future of cooperation when Jisoo slipped away from her mother's side. Something about the crystal called to her. She felt drawn to it, as if it were singing a silent song only she could hear. No one noticed the small girl approaching the pedestal until she was already reaching out her hand. "It's so pretty," she whispered. An Imperial guard saw her. In their culture, the Star Heart was sacred, a symbol of their emperor's authority. No outsider could touch it without permission. The guard reacted instantly, following protocols designed for adult threats. "Stop!" Dr. Kim screamed, seeing what was happening. But it was too late. The guard's weapon discharged a pulse of energy meant to incapacitate. For an adult, it would have caused temporary paralysis. For a small human child, it was devastating. The flash of light filled the room. When it faded, Jisoo lay motionless on the floor. Chaos erupted. Dr. Kim ran to her daughter, cradling her small body. Medical teams rushed forward, but their faces told the story before words could. "I'm sorry," the human doctor said softly. "She's gone." The Imperial delegation withdrew immediately, citing security protocols. Later, they sent an official communication. "The Empire regrets the unfortunate incident. The guard followed standard security procedures and was unaware of human physiology's vulnerability. We offer technological compensation and medical knowledge as reparation. To them, it was a diplomatic incident to be managed. To humanity, it was something far different. That night, as Dr. Kim wept over her daughter's body, Admiral Park stood in the emergency meeting of Earth's leadership. His face was stone, his voice cold. "They think this ends with apologies and technology," he said. "They don't understand what they've done." The president nodded. "Then we will make them understand. Activate Protocol Omega." Across Earth, military bases that had never appeared on official records began to hum with activity. Ships that had been hidden descended from the far side of the moon. Weapons that humanity had developed but never revealed were brought online. The Empire had made a terrible mistake. They had killed a human child. And they were about to learn exactly what that meant. "This meeting is now in session," President Tai announced, her voice echoing in the underground chamber. 200 meters beneath Seoul, the Emergency Council gathered in a facility unknown to the public. The room's air felt heavy with tension as military and civilian leaders from every nation took their seats. General Lee approached the center platform, her uniform crisp despite having been awake for 36 hours straight. "The Imperial delegation has returned to their fleet. They've sent what they call compensation for Jisu's death." On the main screen appeared images of advanced medical technology, energy systems, and agricultural innovations. Beside them, a sum of rare minerals valued at trillions in Earth currency. Dr. Kim sat in the front row, her eyes red but her face composed. "They think they can pay for my daughter's life," she said quietly, as if she were a broken piece of equipment. "That's exactly how they see it," Admiral Park said, standing beside General Lee. "I've reviewed all our first contact data. The Empire views loss of life as an equation. They've calculated what they believe a human child is worth." The room fell silent. Then President Ta spoke. "Dr. Kim, you have the floor if you wish to speak." Jisu's mother stood slowly. All eyes turned to her. "My daughter believed in friendship between worlds. She was so excited to meet beings from the stars." She paused, steadying her voice. "I do not want revenge, but I want justice. I want them to understand what they've done." General Lee nodded. "Understanding is precisely what they lack. The Empire has conquered or absorbed over 200 species. None have ever successfully opposed them. They believe humans are primitive, just beginning to reach for the stars. That's our advantage," Admiral Park said. "It's time to reveal what we really are." The main screen changed to show orbital images of Earth. Then the view expanded, revealing hundreds of hidden installations on the moon's far side, in deep Earth orbit, and scattered throughout the solar system. Since detecting alien signals 50 years ago, humanity has been preparing, General Lee explained. Every nation, setting aside their differences, building in secret. The ships and technology we revealed to the Empire during first contact were merely what we wanted them to see. The screen displayed Earth's true fleet, thousands of vessels with technologies far beyond what the Empire believed humans possessed. "How long have we been ready?" asked the representative from Brazil. 23 years, Admiral Park answered. "We detected Imperial scout ships near our solar system decades ago. We knew contact was inevitable." The council members exchanged looks. Most had known pieces of this truth, but seeing the full scale was sobering. "What do you propose?" President Tai asked. General Lee stepped forward. "We send one final diplomatic message. Then we demonstrate our true capabilities." The room filled with murmurs. The representative from Kenya raised her hand. "This could mean war with the entire empire. Billions could die." "Which is why we won't start a war," Admiral Park replied. "We'll conduct a precise operation, targeting only those responsible for Jisu's death and those who approved their actions afterward." Dr. Kim stood again. "And if they retaliate against Earth?" Admiral Park's expression hardened. "They won't have the chance. Our ships are already in position throughout their territory. They just don't know it yet." The vote was unanimous. Operation Child's Justice would commence immediately. 2 days later, the Imperial flagship orbiting Earth received a message request. The Imperial ambassador, still managing the diplomatic incident, accepted the transmission. On his screen appeared not President Tai or any diplomatic representative, but Dr. Kim herself. Her face showed no anger, no tears, only a calm determination that somehow felt more unsettling. "I am Jisoo's mother," she said simply. "I speak for humanity today." The ambassador shifted uncomfortably. "We have transmitted our formal apologies and compensation. The guard responsible has been reassigned." "Reassigned," Dr. Kim repeated. "My daughter is dead, and the one who killed her was reassigned. It was an unfortunate." "Her name was Jisoo," Dr. Kim interrupted. "She was 8 years old. She loved to dance in the rain. She wanted to be a space explorer when she grew up. She believed your people would be her friends." The ambassador's eye stalks shifted nervously. Something about this human's demeanor was different from previous interactions. "We have protocols for such incidents," he began. "We have protocols too," Dr. Kim said. "This is humanity's only warning. We advised your empire to run. You didn't listen." The transmission ended abruptly. The ambassador immediately ordered a scan of Earth's military assets. The reports showed nothing unusual, the same primitive ships and defensive systems the Empire had observed since arrival. He sent a message to Imperial High Command. Humans displaying emotional distress over juvenile loss. Possible verbal threats made. No cause for concern. 12 hours later, as the ambassador prepared for sleep, his aide burst into his quarters. "Sir, Imperial command stations are reporting simultaneous attacks across 12 sectors." "Impossible." "By whom?" "Unknown vessels. They appeared without warning. Our sensors didn't detect them until they were already firing." The ambassador rushed to the command center. On the main display, reports flooded in from across the Empire. Strategic military installations were under precision attack. Defense systems were failing against weapons they had never encountered. "Show me the attackers," he demanded. The screen displayed sleek vessels bearing a simple insignia, Earth's continents outlined in white against black. "Humans," the ambassador gasped. "How is this possible? Their technology is centuries behind ours." His chief analyst looked up from a data terminal. "Sir, they hid their true capabilities. These are not the same ships we observed during first contact. Send the Imperial Guard. All of them." "Sir," the communications officer interrupted, "we're receiving a transmission. It's system-wide, broadcasting on all Imperial frequencies." On the screen appeared General Lee, seated in what was clearly a Starship command center. Behind her stood Admiral Park, and to the ambassador's shock, Dr. Kim. "This is General Lee of Earth's Combined Defense Forces. Your empire has committed an act of violence against humanity that cannot be ignored. You killed a child and called it an incident. You offered technology as payment for a life. You failed to understand what you were dealing with." The ambassador watched in horror as the display showed Imperial defense stations being systematically disabled. Not destroyed, disabled with surgical precision. "We don't want war," General Lee continued. "We want justice. Your emperor will surrender those responsible for Jisoo's death, not just the guard, but every official who approved the use of lethal force against a child, and every leader who dismissed her death as a diplomatic inconvenience." Another screen showed human soldiers in advanced combat suits boarding an Imperial command station. They moved with terrifying efficiency, disabling resistance without killing when possible. "You have 24 hours to comply," General Lee finished. "If you do not, we will extract them ourselves. And if you attempt to retaliate against Earth, you will discover just how much of our capabilities remain hidden. We warned you to run. You should have listened." The transmission ended. The ambassador stared at his staff in stunned silence. "Get me the Emperor," he finally whispered. Tell him the humans are not what we thought. Across the galaxy, the Galactic Empire faced a truth they had never encountered in their long history of conquest and expansion. They had built their power on the assumption that they were the most advanced civilization in existence. In a single day, that assumption shattered. They had killed a human child, and now they were learning what that meant. Imperial Defense Minister Cato slammed his four-fingered hand against the control panel, causing the holographic display to flicker. Around him, the command center of the Empire's most secure military installation was in chaos. "How did they get past our detection grid?" he demanded. "Answer me." His chief science officer, trembling visibly, pointed to the replay of sensor data. They didn't trigger our sensors at all, sir. The human ships simply appeared inside our defense perimeter. Impossible. No species has mastered spatial folding to that degree. On the main screen, the battle unfolded. Though battle wasn't the right word, the human vessels, sleek and black with blue energy signatures, moved with impossible precision. Their weapons targeted Imperial defenses with surgical accuracy, disabling rather than destroying whenever possible. "They're toying with us," Cato realized with growing horror. 20, maybe 30 soldiers. Cato scoffed. "We have 5,000 troops on this station. Crush them." The captain's expression showed his fear. "Sir, our weapons barely slow them down. They're wearing some kind of combat suits we've never seen before." On a security monitor, Cato watched as a group of human soldiers moved through a corridor. Their armor was unlike anything in Imperial records, sleek black exoskeletons that seemed to absorb energy blasts. Each human moved with enhanced speed and strength, easily overpowering Imperial soldiers 3 times their size. "What are they?" Cato whispered. His question was soon answered personally. The massive doors to the command center, designed to withstand orbital bombardment, began to glow red at the seams. Within seconds, they melted inward, and through the opening stepped 5 human soldiers. Their leader removed her helmet, revealing the face of Commander Hyun. Her expression was calm, almost detached. "Defense Minister Cato," she said, "you are being detained under interstellar law for your role in the death of Ji-Soo Kim and the subsequent cover-up." Cato drew himself up to his full height, nearly twice that of the human. "I don't recognize your authority. The Empire acknowledges no interstellar law except its own." Commander Hyun didn't flinch. "That has changed as of today." She gestured, and her soldiers moved forward, easily restraining the much larger Imperial officers. "Your weapons shouldn't work," Cato shouted as energy cuffs were placed on his wrists. "Our shields block all known weapon signatures." "Known to you," Commander Hyun corrected. "We've studied your technology for decades. Every time your scout ships entered our solar system, we learned more." Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out at 12 strategic Imperial installations. The humans had chosen their targets carefully: command centers, weapon platforms, and communication hubs. Within 6 hours, they had effectively paralyzed the Empire's military response capability without destroying a single major vessel or causing mass casualties. On the Imperial homeworld, Emperor Vaesen received the reports with growing dread. His war council, convened in emergency session, painted a picture he could scarcely believe. "The humans have technology that shouldn't exist," General Toru explained, his voice shaking. "Their ships use a form of phase shifting that allows them to bypass our detection systems completely. Their weapons can target specific genetic signatures, disabling our troops without harming civilians of other species." "How is this possible?" the Emperor demanded. Their planet showed no signs of such advancement. Admiral Sora, the Empire's chief of intelligence, stepped forward. "We've been deceived, Your Majesty. The humans showed us exactly what they wanted us to see. The primitive ships, the basic defense systems, all carefully crafted illusions." "And their soldiers?" the Emperor asked. "Their combat suits enhance their natural abilities tenfold. A single human soldier in one of these suits appears to match 20 of our elite guards. Additionally, They have deployed AI systems that have already infiltrated 60% of our secure networks. The Emperor sank back into his throne. Can we stop them? The silence that followed was answer enough. Back on the captured defense station, Commander Hyun supervised the secure detention of Minister Kato and his staff. None of the prisoners were mistreated, but all were confined to quarters under guard. Commander, her second-in-command said, approaching with a datapad, "We've accessed their secure files. You need to see this." The files revealed something disturbing. Jisoo's death had not been a simple mistake by an overzealous guard. The Empire had a standing policy regarding new species, test their responses to provocation. The guard had been instructed to create an incident at the ceremony, though killing a child had not been the specific intent. "They were testing us," Hyun said quietly, "to see how we would react." "They certainly got their answer," her lieutenant replied. Hyun activated her communication link. "Admiral Park, this is Commander Hyun. You need to see what we found." Within hours, the information was shared with Earth's leadership. The revelation transformed their mission from a targeted operation seeking justice for one child into something more profound, protecting humanity from an empire that viewed them as simply another species to be tested, subjugated, and controlled. President Tai addressed the emergency session of Earth's United Council. The Empire was never interested in peaceful relations. Jisoo's death was part of their standard approach to new species: create an incident, observe the response, and plan conquest accordingly. General Lee stood beside the president. "We now face a choice. Our original plan was limited in scope: extract those responsible for Jisoo's death and force the Empire to acknowledge their crime. But given what we now know, that may not be sufficient." Admiral Park joined them on the platform. "The Empire has conquered hundreds of worlds using these same tactics. They provoke, they observe, they subjugate. We have the ability to end this cycle." Across the chamber, Dr. Kim listened quietly. When given the opportunity to speak, she approached the podium slowly. "My daughter believed in friendship between worlds," she said, her voice steady. "When I learned of her death, I wanted justice. Now that I know her death was policy rather than accident, I still want justice. But not just for Jisoo. For all the species who have suffered under the Empire's expansion." The council debated through the night. By morning, Earth had a new mission. Not conquest, not vengeance, but liberation. As Commander Hyun prepared her troops for the next phase, she received a priority message from Earth. Their orders had changed. They were no longer simply extracting those responsible for one child's death. They were dismantling an empire built on intimidation and conquest. On her command screen, she watched as thousands more human ships emerged from hiding throughout Imperial space. Ships that had been positioned years ago, waiting for a moment that Earth's leaders had hoped would never come. The Empire had killed a human child. In doing so, they had awakened not just a grieving species, but a righteous one. And they were about to learn that humanity's arsenal included not just advanced weapons, but something the Empire had never truly understood: moral purpose. Emperor Vazin stared at the holographic display, showing his crumbling empire. Just 1 week ago, he had ruled the most powerful force in the known galaxy. Now, he huddled in an underground bunker on the Imperial homeworld, watching as human forces systematically dismantled centuries of Imperial power. "Your Majesty," his last remaining advisor whispered, "the humans have taken the central command station. They just walked in and took it." "Walked in? What about our defenses?" "The Imperial Guard." The advisor's 4 eyes blinked nervously. The guards surrendered. After seeing what happened at the other installations, they simply laid down their weapons. Vezin couldn't believe what he was hearing. The Imperial Guard had never surrendered in 8 centuries of existence. Cowards. Traitors. "No, Your Majesty," the advisor said quietly. "They're afraid. The humans have shown they could destroy us entirely, yet they choose not to. They disable rather than kill. They offer medical care to those they injure. It's unsettling. On the display, footage showed human soldiers in their advanced combat suits helping wounded Imperial troops. In one scene, a human medic was treating an injured guard who had been fighting them just minutes earlier. What do they want? Vezin demanded. If not conquest, then what? Before the advisor could answer, the communication system activated. Despite the bunker's security protocols, the screen filled with the image of Admiral Park. Somehow, the humans had breached even this most secure channel. Emperor Vezin, Park said calmly, I believe it's time we spoke directly. Vezin straightened his posture, trying to project imperial dignity despite his circumstances. You have committed acts of war against the Empire. There will be consequences. Admiral Park's expression didn't change. The consequences are already unfolding, Emperor, but not as you imagine. We're not here to destroy your empire. We're here to change it. The display split to show scenes from across Imperial space. Human ships hovered near Imperial worlds, but they weren't attacking civilians or bombing cities. Instead, they were disabling military installations and government centers, while broadcasting the truth about the Empire's first contact protocols. Your people are learning what really happened, Admiral Park continued. They're learning about Jisoo and how her death was part of your standard policy. They're learning about how you've treated other species the same way. Vezin felt the blood drain from his face. The first contact protocols were among the Empire's most closely guarded secrets. Those records were encrypted in our most secure databases. Yes, they were, Park agreed. We accessed them all. In the command center of the human flagship Retribution, Admiral Park ended the transmission and turned to Dr. Kim, who stood watching quietly. He still doesn't understand, Park said. Dr. Kim nodded. None of them do. They've ruled through fear for so long, they can't imagine another way. General Lee approached with a datapad. Update from Commander Hyun. The Imperial homeworld's defensive grid is now under our control. Their remaining fleet has withdrawn to the outer system, but isn't attempting to engage. And the civilian response? Dr. Kim asked. Growing exactly as we predicted, General Lee replied. Once we released the Empire's first contact protocols and historical records, protests began across their core worlds. Many species within the Empire are demanding answers from their own representatives. Aboard the captured Central Command Station, Commander Hyun was surprised when an unscheduled ship requested permission to dock. Scans showed it carried a single passenger, a human. When the airlock opened, Hyun recognized him immediately. Advisor Yang, she said, greeting the man who had remained with the Imperial delegation even after Jisoo's death. We weren't expecting you. Yang bowed slightly. I've been with the Imperial government for the past week. I've seen things you should know. In the station's conference room, Yang explained how the Empire was fracturing from within. At least 40 species have declared independence from Imperial rule since you began your operation. They've watched how you've conducted yourselves, minimizing casualties, protecting civilians, targeting only military assets, and they see an alternative to Empire. That wasn't our primary objective, Commander Hyun admitted. We came for justice for a child. And you may have liberated half the galaxy in the process, Yang said. But there's a problem. Some Imperial hardliners are planning a last-ditch attack. They've gathered a fleet in the Viridian system, including planet-killer weapons. Hyun immediately activated her command link. Admiral Park, we have intelligence about a counterattack. Within hours, human forces had surrounded the Viridian system. The Imperial fleet there, comprising the Empire's most powerful remaining warships, found themselves facing human vessels that had phase-shifted into position around them. Admiral Jin, commander of the Imperial fleet, received a direct communication from General Lee. Your weapons are already disabled, Lee informed him. We targeted their control systems before revealing ourselves. You have one chance to surrender. Admiral Jin, a veteran of 100 battles, felt something he had never experienced before. helplessness. How? He asked simply. How did your species develop such technology without our knowledge? General Lee's expression softened slightly. We've been watching the stars for centuries, Admiral. We detected your scout ships long before you officially found Earth. We saw what happened to other worlds who weren't prepared for your arrival. So you hid your true capabilities, Jin realized. We hoped never to use them, Lee admitted. We wanted peaceful relations, but your empire killed a child and called it policy. Jin had read the release protocols. In all his years of service, he had never known that the incidents created during first contact were deliberate imperial policy. What happens now? He asked. That depends on the Emperor, Lee replied. Back in his bunker, Emperor Vezin was facing the most difficult decision of his reign. The communication screen showed President Tay, flanked by Earth's military leadership. Your forces in the Viridian system have surrendered, President Tai informed him. You have no military options remaining. What are your terms? Vezin asked, the words bitter in his mouth. Justice, accountability, and reform, President Tay replied. Those responsible for Jisu's death will face trial under new interstellar law. Your empire will be reorganized with constitutional protections for all member species, and your first contact protocols will be permanently abolished. Vezin wanted to refuse, to fight until the last Imperial soldier fell, but the evidence was overwhelming. The humans could have destroyed them entirely yet chose restraint. His own military was surrendering without a fight. Even his citizens were demanding change. And if I agree? He asked. Then we help you rebuild. President Ta said, not as conquerors, but as equals. Across Imperial space, citizens watched the broadcast of Vezin's response. For the first time in Imperial history, an emperor acknowledged wrongdoing. The words came haltingly at first, then with growing conviction. The Empire has erred, he admitted. We have treated other species as lesser beings. We have used fear rather than respect to maintain order. Beginning today, this changes. Dr. Kim watched the broadcast from her quarters on the human flagship. 8 weeks had passed since her daughter's death. The pain was still raw, but something else was growing alongside it. Hope that Jisu's death might ultimately save countless lives. A soft chime announced a visitor. General Lee entered, her uniform crisp, but her eyes tired from weeks of constant operations. The Emperor has agreed to all terms, Lee reported, including the trial of those responsible for Jisu's death. Dr. Kim nodded slowly. It doesn't bring her back. No, Lee agreed quietly. Nothing can do that. But her name will be remembered across the galaxy now. Not just as a victim, but as a catalyst for change. Outside the viewport, the stars shone steadily. Among them were worlds that would now know freedom for the first time in centuries. All because an empire had killed a child and learned, too late, what that meant to humanity. 1 year after the day that humans brought the Galactic Empire to its knees, Captain Song stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Hall of Remembrance. The massive structure floated in neutral space, exactly halfway between Earth and the Imperial homeworld. At its center stood a holographic statue of Jisu Kim, her bright smile and curious eyes captured perfectly in light. It's beautiful, said Haeyun, now serving as Earth's ambassador to the reformed Galactic Alliance. She adjusted her formal diplomatic robes as she joined Song at the viewport. She would have loved this place, Song replied. All these different species coming together. It's what she dreamed about. Below them, the Grand Hall was filling with representatives from over 300 worlds. Some had been part of the Empire for centuries. Others were newly discovered civilizations invited to join the Galactic Alliance as equals. The variety of beings was astonishing. Crystalline entities that floated rather than walked, massive creatures that breathed methane, tiny insectoid collectives that moved as one organism. How are the trials proceeding? Song asked quietly. Haeyun's expression grew serious. The last of the guilty parties was sentenced yesterday. The guard who fired the weapon will spend 20 years in rehabilitation. The officials who created and approved the first contact protocols received longer sentences. And the emperor? Limited rule under a constitutional monarchy. His powers are now ceremonial. The real authority lies with the Alliance Council, where all member species have equal representation. Song nodded, watching as an imperial delegation entered the hall below. Their once proud uniforms had been replaced with simpler attire. They moved with subdued dignity rather than arrogance. "They're learning," he observed. Slowly, Heian agreed. It's not easy to change the thinking of an entire civilization. Some still resent us for dismantling their empire. And others are grateful, especially the species that were conquered or subjugated. Did you know that 17 worlds have named their new governmental centers after Jisoo? Her name has become synonymous with freedom across the galaxy. The commemoration ceremony began with a moment of silence. Then Dr. Kim approached the center of the hall. Despite being offered high positions in Earth's new interstellar government, she had chosen instead to lead the newly formed Interspecies Children's Protection Agency. 1 year ago, my daughter died during what should have been a peaceful cultural exchange, she began, her voice strong and clear. Her death revealed an ugly truth, that the Empire viewed other species as less worthy of care and respect, that the lives of children could be risked as a matter of policy. The hall remained absolutely silent as she continued. Jisoo believed in friendship between worlds. She was excited to meet beings from other planets and learn from them. Today, we honor her memory not by dwelling on how she died, but by building the kind of galaxy she would have wanted to explore. On cue, the lights dimmed. The holographic statue of Jisoo in the center began to change, expanding to include representations of children from hundreds of species. They stood hand in hand, or tentacle, or wing, forming a circle of young life that spanned the known galaxy. The first charter of the Galactic Alliance, Dr. Kim announced, begins with these words: "The protection and nurturing of all sentient young is the highest duty of civilized beings. No political, military, or economic goal shall ever take precedence over this sacred obligation." In the hall below, many species did not have the physical ability to cry, but they expressed emotion in their own ways. Some glowed brighter, others changed colors. Some emitted harmonic tones that resonated through the hall. Captain Song felt his own eyes grow wet. He had been part of the military response after Jisoo's death, commanding one of the ships that had disabled Imperial defenses. The restraint his forces had shown then, disabling rather than destroying, protecting civilians even as they dismantled the Empire's military, had set the tone for everything that followed. After the ceremony, Captain Song found himself approached by a young Imperial. The being was barely into adulthood by their species standards, perhaps equivalent to a human teenager. "You're Captain Song?" the young Imperial asked. "One of the human commanders?" Song nodded cautiously. Relations between humans and Imperials remained delicate. "I wanted to thank you," the Imperial youth said, surprising him. "My generation. We were raised to believe the Empire's way was the only right way. That other species were lesser beings to be controlled or conquered. What your people did, how you responded when you could have destroyed us, it showed us another path." Before Song could respond, Dr. Kim joined them. The young Imperial bowed deeply to her. "Dr. Kim, I am Taro, son of Admiral Jin. My father commanded the fleet that surrendered in the Viridian system. He asked me to give you this personally." Taro handed her a small crystalline object. Dr. Kim accepted it carefully. "It is our version of what you would call a family heirloom," Taro explained. "It has been in my lineage for 12 generations. My father said that you lost something precious that can never be replaced, but he hoped this might serve as a small token of our people's remorse." Dr. Kim studied the crystal. Within it swirled patterns of light that seemed alive. "Thank you, Taro. Please tell your father I accept this in the spirit it was offered." After the young Imperial departed, Heian approached them. The Alliance Council session begins tomorrow. The first agenda item is the ratification of the Interspecies Youth Exchange Program. Jisoo's program, Dr. Kim said softly. Yes, named in her honor. It will allow young people from all Alliance worlds to live briefly among other species, learning their ways and cultures, with full protection protocols, of course. Captain Song watched the crowds below, where species that had been enemies for centuries now conversed peacefully. Do you think it will last? He asked. This peace. Hei-yun considered the question. It won't be perfect. There will be conflicts, disagreements, but I believe the foundation is stronger than what came before. The Empire was built on fear. The Alliance is built on respect. Dr. Kim clutched the crystal gift, looking up at the holographic children still rotating slowly in the center of the hall. Jisoo used to tell me she wanted to have friends on every planet, even the ones we haven't found yet. Mom, she would say. Later that evening, Captain Song stood alone on the observation deck. The ceremony had ended, the delegates had departed, but the holographic memorial continued to glow. He thought about how a single child's death had changed the course of galactic history. Captain, a voice said behind him. He turned to find Admiral Park approaching. Admiral, I thought you'd return to Earth. Park shook his head. Not yet. I wanted to see this place when it was quiet. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the stars beyond the viewport. We could have destroyed them, Song said finally. We had the capability. Yes, Park agreed. But then we would have become what we fought against. Jisoo wouldn't have wanted that. Across the galaxy, changes continued to unfold. Imperial military installations were being converted to scientific research centers. Former conquest fleets now carried humanitarian aid and diplomatic missions. Species that had lived in fear for generations were rediscovering their own cultures and traditions. And on 1,000 worlds, children of all species were learning a new history, how the death of a human child named Jisoo had transformed an empire of fear into an alliance of respect, how a warning to run had become an invitation to stand together, how the fury of a species protecting its young had given birth not to vengeance, but to justice. As Captain Song prepared to return to his ship, he paused for one last look at Jisoo's memorial. We remember, he whispered, the traditional words of the commemoration ceremony. And in remembering, we change.